How did you fare in the storm?
My family did well. We live in this tiny like bungalow near
I've
downtown San
seen
Antonio. Yeah,
you're in the New York Times, so that's kind
it
of fitting.
was. It was it's really cool. It was
Which is
super
why I knew
tiny.
you'd like my tiny home in Breckenridge.
It was super tiny when we bought it, and it was like I kind of joke it was like a cardboard box because it was so drafty. And in Texas, the homes are just like on pier and beam; they're just like on stilts. So the 2021 freeze was pretty traumatic for us, but this one
Okay.
we renovated our home. It's much cozier. My plants didn't do as well as I had hoped. I'm a big gardener, and I think my olive trees like exploded from the inside out.
Okay,
So
so this you have to explain this phenomenon to me because I saw somebody put something up that
yeah,
said an exploding tree warning, and I'm like, this can't be real.
I saw that too, and like I don't know, it was a headline, and I passed right by it, and uh, didn't even know what it was referring to. But now I'm thinking maybe it was referring to what happens to my Arbequina olives, which is either the either the bark contracts faster than the inside of the trunk, or maybe the trunk contracts faster than the bark. It's got to be the anyway. It looks like it looks like my olive tree, like every part of the wood is just like
That's so
has
crazy.
ripped open, and so now it's probably gonna die of dehydration because it's like a straw. It's like a straw
Yeah.
that now has a bunch of holes in it. So
Ugh, you're
bummer.
like quite the gardener.
I know I'm pretty bad at gardening, but it's my one hobby.
Yeah, but it's a thing. And so I was reminded that it might be helpful at the beginning of these live streams to take, 2 minutes, sort of ground everybody so they understand when we talk about food is health, we're talking about a systemic redesign from agriculture through ingredients, like so from the soil through ingredients, through the packaged goods that we get in the grocery store, all the supply chain, all the distribution, the retail. We're talking about convenience stores, we're talking about restaurants, right? Pulling all the way through into healthcare and then redesigning healthcare. When Carter and I first talked 2 years ago about this, I wouldn't have said that with a straight face. Now I do. And so our objective is we have come up with a framework that we call System B and System C. And System B would be the silos that exist today between food and healthcare and soil, right? We have these industries that are completely siloed from each other. We produce cheap calories that, and I'm overgeneralizing, but for the most part, make us sick. Then we have a healthcare system that's designed to profit on that. And neither of those systems were maliciously designed that way. They were really unintended consequences that came about. Our mission is to change that and to create what we call System C so that our current healthcare system is in place to serve what it's meant to do, which is acute care. And that we have a new system design using first principles that is all about human outcomes and human health. So anybody who's new, welcome. That's System B, that's System C at a very high level. Carter, is anything you want to add to that?
No.
Okay. All
I
right,
have a
so let's
question.
jump in. Yes,
Wait,
Pryce.
what's system A?
So
Should
System
I
A is what
should I be
life was
reading between the
like.
lines?
Yeah, so no, we have a piece out there about System A. Actually, Carter, you do System A.
Let me explain. So System A is sort of what evolution gave us. And this construct can be applied to many things. But as it applies to food and health, System A is evolution tuned up our bodies to deliver something. We ate food. It generally was nutritionally dense, but it didn't scale. So it was hard to get it. We had famine, but when we got the right food, our bodies were properly tuned to do it, and we died in the 1800s from pathogens, not because we were eating the wrong food. And System B is then we boosted yield to get rid of famine, but we took out nutrition. And System C attempts to try to take the best of A and the best of B and deliver it at scale. So how do we take high quality, nutrient dense food? The same thing can go for healthcare. Is we lived 330,000 years without needing hospitals. We did die, but if we got through the pathogens at age 7, we lived until we were 80. So there's acute care, like a tiger ate us, was hard to deal with, but for the most part, we didn't pick up chronic disease. And we used leeches every now and then, but that was just sort of the early phases of. But in System A, our bodies were pretty well tuned to at least let the human species continue. But a small little oddity in the world of System A is the main reason why the average age of life was like 40 in the 1800s was because a bunch of people died before the age of 7 of pathogens, which once you get rid of the pathogens, which we've essentially done, you get to 70 pretty quick. We've gone down probably because of chronic disease.
We have.
Instead of what we would naturally be.
We have. So,
and the Queen proved that home cooking works because she lived until 98 or so. Different kind of home cooking, but she had home cooking in her life. She never had to go out.
I'm gonna shift. I'm gonna use this to transition us a little bit, but I'm gonna make one last point on this. So, I think anybody who watched our live stream last week knows that I started a subscription with Chef's Table and Chef's Garden. I always want to say that with Chef's Garden. Sorry, Bob Jones' operation. So I am getting a box a week from his farm, all regeneratively grown. It's a model, garden approach. And I have made it a goal to try to use that box as our primary source of vegetables for the week and not go to the grocery store to buy others. And it goes back to this evolution point, which is I have drilled it in my head that I should be eating more basilicas, but do I really need to be eating basilicas in the middle of winter? Am I really okay to eat more sweet potatoes and to eat more radish and roots? And right, and so I sort of have this theory that I've started of, I think that might actually be better metabolically, evolutionarily, because that's what we did a lot longer than what we've done in the last, piece of time. So anyways, I don't want to go down that. We have you are one of the national leaders in health tech, in interoperability, in all of the crazy terms. The way that I sling around value-based care acronyms, you sling around tech acronyms. And so the story goes that Pryce and I met at the first HHS. What was it? Do you remember what it was called?
It was the info blocking boot camp.
Correct. And so, yes, everybody, I go deep on as much as I can. And I went to that boot camp, even though I am not that person. I went with Monique Nadeau from Eat Love because I really wanted to understand this piece of it. Bryce got the blessing and curse of me when he was standing out. He was getting ready to leave with his suitcase. And I said, "Are you going to the airport?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Do you want to share an Uber?" And he said, "Yes." And then he got the speed version of Food is Health. He got full Ellen, and he still cared. He still will text me.
He didn't have any drugs to protect him.
No, it was refreshing. I'm glad that happened. It was a day of listening to government officials, and it was very exciting for me. But I was ready to talk about food and go to the airport and have a glass of wine at the Amex lounge. So I made a friend, and here we are, still friends.
We are. Yes, we are. We are still friends, and so what's really funny, Pryce, is that I went back through yesterday. I was pulling something out of a clip, and I realized that we had on that predictions episode 2 weeks ago. We had actually sort of hit on this thing about AI in healthcare. And then because I'm a perimenopausal woman, I promptly forgot that I had made that prediction. And you were the one, the best part about it was this was already prearranged. And then I realized that you were the one that sort of asked that question. And then I tried it on myself. And I had already asked you to come today and talk. So it was pretty fitting. Talk about serendipity, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, so what I want to dive into today is we're calling it part 2 of Claude for Healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And Carter now has built an app with all of this. And so this is going to
I
be
heard about this.
super fun with the two of you. But my mind was just blown with and I sent it to you, and you had
Mm-hmm.
an equal response of like, wow, you got all of this out of it. The depth of what I was able to get from Claude with very simple prompts, and it is no way ready for prime time to like slough somebody over there. But the reality is, I mean, my own husband is using ChatGPT for nutrition recommendations right now when I'm his wife. I find this like massively offensive, and I've shared that with him. But nonetheless, it's happening. So,
You should
I mean, from a
actually be excited about it. You shouldn't find it offensive in the least.
Yes, yes. Well, so I want to hand it over. So, Pryce, tell us what you do as your day job, and then let's jump in.
Yeah, so I started my career working for an electronic health record company, a very big one that everyone in the health tech scene has probably heard of in Wisconsin, and just got flung in as a 21-year-old, no background in healthcare, no idea what I wanted to do or why. Somebody offered me money to work for them, and I was like, okay, I need a job. I'm out of college. And then since then, in the past 10 years, I somehow really focused on interoperability in healthcare, or data liquidity, or however you want to think about it. But sort of the idea that these systems of records, like electronic health records, are important. They're important for clinicians. They're important for the administrative side of providing healthcare. They're important for compliance and reporting and things like that. But they don't handle everything that a healthcare provider or a payer or a software vendor might want to do in the healthcare ecosystem. And so more systems are added, and every hospital has their own electronic health record. And you end up having like hundreds of thousands of disparate silos, millions really of disparate silos of data, healthcare data, about the 350 million people that live in the US. And I think about how those systems talk to each other. And I'm not an engineer, so I know all the abbreviations, but I don't write the code. I know, like, oh, well, electronic health records should be able to produce a document that summarizes the encounter. Generally, they follow the clinical document architecture standard of CCDA, developed by HL7. Or, an HL7 ADT feed is the one that's probably going to notify other systems of admissions, discharges, and transfers. And it can be really simple, and it can be really in the weeds. But the fact of the matter is, we made all of these software systems, and now we're trying to make them talk to each other. And that's really what's happening. That's the new thing that's happened with OpenAI and Anthropic in the past few weeks, is that they've said, just so you know, our system can talk directly to your doctor's system if you want to pull your healthcare data.
So then
that's
what
what's
does that
changed.
mean? What does that mean to somebody like HealthX that just created the connector with Claude?
What does it mean for HealthX? So they are like the service provider, like almost like Plaid.
Yeah.
I have a budgeting app, and I use Plaid, or I guess I should say my budgeting app pays Plaid to go and talk to my bank and my other bank and my credit card companies. And in the same way, or in a similar sense, these companies like HealthX, BeWell, Fasten, FlexSpa, they allow other companies to sort of onboard to their APIs, and then they facilitate what is really an exchange of data across maybe a nationwide network, or maybe it's just direct to the health system. They're pinging an API that says, I have one of your patients here, and I can prove that it's him or her. We would like their chart, please. And certified electronic health records have to respond to those queries.
Interesting.
It's like a government mandate. So now they plug straight into ChatGPT. But you can use Apple Health to do that, I think, for a while. Yes, exactly. Via Health. And ChatGPT is doing it via BeWell. OpenAI is using BeWell, and Anthropic is using HealthX.
And so when you say that's what's changed, is that, the AI tools are now able to get those health right. Like they're saying, we can grab this directly via HealthX, not direct is what you're saying. Okay. That's what I wanted to clarify.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And you could have downloaded your healthcare information, from your
Which is
My
what I
Chart
did.
account or patient portal, and then thrown it in there.
Yeah.
And you could have
Which
done
is,
that
I mean, and
months
to
ago.
clarify, I did that because I spent all the time to put it into HealthX. And then HealthX, even though it was connected to Claude, it only would read within the Claude ecosystem one actual health record. It was
Yeah.
crazy. Plus, HealthX was very limited in its ability to pull my data. So it only pulled, I would say, a tenth or maybe even more like a 32nd of, like, it was a very tiny sliver of all of my health data. I still had to pull all of that data in. And that's because, I think that's anyways. So you can speak to that, or Carter, what are your, I mean, I just have so many questions.
You have so many
I was going
questions.
to say,
What do you?
Go ahead, Carter.
Let's take this up a level. What are you working on now, and what are you working on next? What are you? I just want to get a context of what's important to you in terms of what you're trying to pull off. You were working for a medical health
at work.
You were working for a medical health company. Are you still there, or
good.
one in Wisconsin?
Yeah, thanks. I should finish my.
What are you focused on?
Yes, so I spent 7 years at Redox, which is an interoperability platform, after sort of my early career. And I just left Redox last fall, and now I'm working at HTD Health and their data liquidity and interoperability consultancy. So I work for Brendan Keeler, who's health API guy, and he's much more, well known and sort of a thought leader in the space in terms of writing about why things are happening with certain healthcare softwares and where we think they're going and what the government's doing about it and things like that. So in the interoperability practice, we work with clients. They could be payers, they could be providers, they could be software vendors who are saying, what's the best way for us to connect with Epic, or what's the best way for us to, how should we prioritize which electronic health records we target for our go-to-market strategy, or how do we interpret info blocking regulation, which is, when an actor like a developer of certified healthcare technology, so an EHR, oftentimes an EHR, or a provider is saying, like, if they're discouraging the exchange of electronic health information, that's called info blocking. And so a lot of the work that I do has to do with how do you quickly and sort of gracefully connect systems in healthcare. And some of those systems might be a consumer app who are saying, I have 100 million users and I want them to be able to fetch their clinical records. How should we do it?
Yeah.
Which individual access service provider should we use? Like I mentioned, HealthX or BeWell or Fasten. So that's the kind of work I do today. And I've got all sorts of different engagements, but they're all about data mobility and interop between either. Yeah, go ahead.
And what do you want to achieve? Like, what do you, with that, where are you, like, as you're thinking through what you're working on now, what do you see as the opportunity in front of us to, and let me give a little bit of scope on that. Well, I'd like to hear your unadulterated answer to that.
Yeah. What do I want to achieve?
Or what do you think we can?
Yeah, that has me thinking really, really big picture. And right now I feel like my big picture, like, sights are set on the fact that in a world where healthcare interoperability is not so challenging, and in a world where it's regulated in the sense that, like I said, those who are harboring healthcare data have to be able to facilitate the exchange of it responsibly and without much friction. If we as a industry and then as a government continue to incentivize healthcare data mobility, then we create organic competition. So it's not just who has the data that makes all the money and keeps all the power over software, but who develops the best software. And once they have data, if the data becomes a commodity that can be exchanged through all the systems, who's going to make the most value out of it? And I'm hoping that value is created by making people healthier or empowering people to DIY their own healthcare, and not just not just let the technocrats get their hands on as much healthcare data as they can, so they can turn their $100 million investment into
a unicorn.
$500 million. Yeah.
Could you drilling on this a little bit, and is we talk about pre-chronic, and a notion is there's one notion of people with chronic disease. Well, let's get rid of the chronic disease, or reverse the chronic disease, so we save money, or what, and make their lives better, and all that, all the system B errors. The other is, how do you make it so that they never become chronic? We have a healthcare system where 80% of people do not get the standard of care, which almost sort of says utter total failure. I mean, like, if 80% of people are not getting the standard of care in chronic disease, or in all disease, that, I mean, it's pretty, I would say, just so you know, I used to design aircraft. I'm not sure anybody would be happy if 80% of the time the planes didn't land. So we think about that. And then we have another variation here is in a different direction, is synthetic control arms, that we have the capability, when we bring out new drugs and things, we have to do RCTs, and not many people know this, but there's a lot of trials on new drugs that are held up because you can't find enough patients to test to get a statistical set, and it actually delays drug development by 2, 3, 4 years. And so on the other far extreme of we're developing new technology and drugs to deal with acute diseases or other things, is we spend a lot of time just getting the statistics right. So a lot of setup there. Is there like a model? Like, when you think through these things, is there, to some degree, we don't want the tech bros or somebody to own the data. Is somebody got like an economic model that basically says, yeah, it's worth billions of dollars to hold on to these records and not let people have them? Is that, like, has anybody done that?
I haven't seen studies like that. To me, it's more like, well, if you have enough data that an organization needs, it's like their lifeblood, like a hospital, or, I'm trying to think of a good example. But if you have enough data, then you might be able to create vendor lock-in. Like, oh, they don't want to switch to a new electronic health record because that would be such a pain. They've already got 100 million records or whatever, 10 million records in this system. Or even like, is your experience being on the inside of some of these things, like if there were a firm in Wisconsin, or are they sitting there at corporate saying, we got to really make sure nobody gets access to this data? Absolutely not. No, that's not how they think at all. And that's how a lot of the industry paints them. And of course, there's like, I don't want to, Epic was a great first job for me. It was also like 2 of the worst years of my working life, like terrible work-life balance. So I don't have any, like, I don't hold Epic like this, they're so precious to me and I can't hurt them. They burned me. They used me like I was a Kleenex and they threw me away. Yeah. And I was 21. And so, but that's what companies do. Like, and I benefited from it and they benefited from it. Right. Yeah. And so, and the same thing I think happens here, where it's like folks think that there's this giant vault of healthcare data in underground in Verona, Wisconsin. And in a sense there is, because they do host servers for a lot of their customers. But that is not Epic's data to dole out or to determine, where it goes. It is advantageous to them to say, well, if we want to build a sepsis model that makes us money, then we are already sitting on the data that we can use to train it, or we're already sitting on the data that we can use, like once we deploy it to our software, we don't need to create an integration. We don't need Deloitte to come in and do a systems integration between two different things so that your Salesforce instance has this in it. It's just like there. And so, of course, I think there are people who think strategically at every company about how, their first mover advantage or their incumbent advantage or, whatever you want to call it, can help them produce more value for their customers. But I do think Epic is kind of always asking that question, like what is valuable to our customers? They're not like conspiring.
Okay, but this is, as you guys were talking, the thing that popped into my head is it goes back to, Carter, what you said on the predictions episode, which is like, I think maybe we just need to just double down on this concept of human outcomes and human health. I always add the human health. He says the human outcomes is, imagine if Epic, you just said customers. Epic's customers are the acute care healthcare delivery system. Mm-hmm. They're not generally speaking, Epic is not going to the doctor down the street. They're going to the big health system, right? Which really, they want to own all of healthcare, but we all know that the truth of the matter is they should be managing acute care. That's part of the struggle here. Like, that's what they're designed to do. That's who Epic's going after. Epic didn't, just like Apple Health, I feel like really has dropped the ball. Nobody has stepped up and said, you know what, we're going to help people use their data to improve their health and to manage their health outcomes. And so if Epic had instead said, our customer is the person who owns the data, how do we help empower them to be the healthiest version of themselves, as opposed to, we're going to help the health system try and navigate it. Again, it's a fine point to some. They'd say, well, what do you expect? That would have made an enormous difference in exactly what we're talking about. Because the customer is the customer is the intermediary delivering the healthcare, not the person.
Well, and the setup here I want to get a little bit of is, if Epic's really focused on acute care, if standard of care is deficient 80% of the time, and we have a whole bunch of people who could take activity to redirect themselves so that they never get chronic disease and never become part of the system, there's a lot of opportunity. Who has pole position in that story? Is nobody's got an incumbent's advantage to that.
Does Health Act
democratizing? Is that what you're saying?
I let me restate that. I'm sorry. It is really unclear. If I were going to do a Porter 5 Forces or a SWOT analysis, it would be an academic study unconnected with what the reality will be. Because I think that there's multiple opportunities to leverage data to rethink this, and it's unclear. I'm still a little lost as to what runway the plane will land here a bit. And so a little bit of my next question is, what do you think, as you're sitting in the buzzsaw of FDA HSS, rethinking things, we've got Marshall and the others sort of pushing more towards separating insurance on chronic and acute, more supercharging HSAs. We've got a lot of things.
Access model.
And then we've got technology moving at an incredibly fast pace in terms of changing people's perception of what they can do to manage their own health. Mm-hmm. Do you have any kind of, I look at that as there's a lot of opportunity things for change a lot. But what is your sense of what's going to happen, let's say, over the next 3 years? If we just sort of say under the current HHS sort of group, and what you're sort of hearing and what you're thinking and what you would like to achieve, what do you think we're going to see happen over the next year or two on this?
Well, since it's healthcare, in the next year or two, maybe not that much, but there will be incremental things that make a big difference.
And, wait. Let me pause there and put a finer point on your answer. There's a little bit of a bifurcation here. I mean, there's a whole different sector now. Like, we've had conversation now with multiple grocers who are now jumping in on the AHR conversation and interoperability as more from a traditional healthcare perspective, but not as the pharmacy. And that's new, right? So this goes back to, there's, again, kind of that system B answer to the question, and then there's kind of that system C answer to the question. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big change that's happening right now is the government is going all in on like patients should be empowered, and whether that's like telling them that they don't need to get vaccines anymore, or telling them that they should be able to access their own healthcare information. And the CMS is the one who was like, last summer they had a big White House event and they started the CMS health tech ecosystem, and they said, we want to have CMS aligned networks join and pledge. We want to have EHRs join and pledge. We want to have payers join and pledge. We want to have patient facing apps join and pledge. The whole goal of this administration is we want to empower patients to take, charge of their own healthcare. And I think, that's of course going to garner bipartisan support. Like everyone wants their constituents to feel empowered, and everyone wants, folks to be healthier. I still question sort of, I guess, the effectiveness of that at the moment, like democratizing healthcare data in the sense that you can get your healthcare data and you can start asking these LLMs about your healthcare is certainly going to start educating people and hopefully start changing habits. But I mean, it's no secret. It's no secret how you get diabetes. It's no secret how you get cardiovascular disease. I plugged in all of my healthcare information to both Chat and Claude in the past few weeks, and it told me the same thing my provider told me, which is good. I'm glad that it's not like deviating from standard practice. But more and more, I think the incremental changes that we're making into how much data we have access to and what we can do with that data is going to make a difference. I was thinking this morning, I'm wearing an Oura ring, which Ellen and I bonded about in the Uber when we met. Oh my gosh!
Because I'm normal.
You're like a RoboCop over there.
Yeah.
He's got his Garmin. This is my new Garmin test.
I've been thinking, okay, I'm a relatively healthy 32-year-old. I drink too much. And I tell my doctor I drink too much, and she tells me you drink too much, and then I go on with my life until I start getting hangovers because I'm too old. Apparently I have slightly high cholesterol, and other than that, I'm healthy. But at the end of the workday, if I'm feeling jittery, I'm kind of wondering, would it be useful for me to track my blood sugar and then sort of inform myself how to eat and when to eat based on the way that I feel on my bike ride home, or the anxiety that I'm experiencing at work, or how quickly I fall asleep because my Oura ring tells me that. And at the moment, I get a little bit of here's your heart rate. You seem to be working out enough. Your sleep was
I'm going to challenge you on this. I'm going to challenge you on this. Keep going.
Because you can do that. I'm just saying, once those things become really commonplace, I do think in 5 years, anyone who's interested in monitoring their own health will have something like this that kind of nudges you before you have chronic disease and says you're doing something wrong, and don't ignore your bowel movements, and don't ignore your ignore your restlessness, and don't ignore your depression. Once you have enough data on your phone or wherever it is centralized about your healthcare, and that's coming. It's coming. That data is becoming much more, mobile, in the sense that I can include my lab results and my perhaps Oura vitals together.
So just drilling in a little bit on this, right now, your data is part of a system and you're getting access to it. Do you think we're going to see that shifting? Do you reasonably think we're going to shift to you own your data and you share it back to the system?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, not in the next year, but that's literally what we're working on.
architecturally, do you feel like that's the general momentum that we're policy and everybody's moving to?
Yeah.
Or
And
is
right now it's like, you have to, you all know this way better than I do because you're wiser and you've probably made more mistakes than me. No offense. But like you have to frame all of this within some sort of economic and capitalistic like like expectation, right? You can't just say like, well, this would be good for people. You have to say this would be good for people, and there's $5 trillion in it. And so yeah, for the longest time, providers have been like, why would I want to allow my patients to get their data as quickly and easily as possible if that just puts me at risk of committing more HIPAA breaches by accident? Like,
yeah,
I want to be the one who says, Pryce, come in and get your blood work done. And then I also won't lose Pryce as a customer. But the incentives are changing, and the government's saying if you do block the exchange of this healthcare information, then there will be financial penalties. And by the way, we're going to fund companies like, or we're going to sort of maybe open the gates for companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and Aura and Function to start being a part of these humans' healthcare journey now. And then you're going to have to take that data back, and you're going to have to allow your physicians to work with that data, and you're going to have to figure out how to bill for that. That's what Access might do in the next 10 years. So I do think it's happening. It's just like, it's really, there's a lot of resistance because, first of all, an object not in motion tends to stay not in motion. But second of all,
so
it's
I want to step into
clear incentive. Yeah.
I want to step into one more thing and then let. Do you know if your parents or grandparents have chronic disease?
None. I've got a grandfather with dementia. Had a grandfather pass of cancer, and a grandmother pass of cancer, but no serious heart disease or metabolic disease that I know of. What else am I missing?
Well, so I want to set this up a little bit, and then I don't know if you want to bring up what you want to bring up here, Ellen. I think that as we think about data interoperability, for those that do get chronic disease, folks like Lustig will say, if it shows up when you're 50, you got it when you were 20 and 30. So that suggests, how do you keep track of data about yourself before the system is keeping track of data about yourself? So that's one kind of world.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other kind of world, which is, okay, now I'm getting chronic disease and I'm trying to just make it not get out of control or acute. And then you're into, I'm in end stage chronic disease and I'm trying to slow it down, or I have acute disease. And I think most of what we talk about in terms of interoperability is probably that group. You're really in the system. You're intensely in the system. And then the fourth category might be, well, we are doing drug trials and we want to figure out what truth is. And so being able to leverage a lot of data, and in that case, you need negative and positive hypothesis data. You need a control, and to get the control of healthy people data, which there's not a lot of healthy people data. This is one of the things like Pronovo's doing, is they're getting a lot more healthy people data on an MRI. So they're getting control, which is actually an interesting component of, like, all of a sudden you can all of a sudden see what healthy people look like, because for the most part MRIs have a selection bias to pick people who are getting some illness. So I think Pronovo is getting beat up a little bit for not catching some things recently, but when you really think about it, whenever you go get an MRI, there's a particular indication they're looking for. So, like, people are thinking, when all of a sudden you take the whole body and now investigate the whole body and are checking as to whether you have the early sign of one impending thing, now you've created a whole different kind of mess where people are going to get sued for not happening to detect this one little pixel is off, which creates another kind of complexity if you've got a healthcare kind of world. But giving people that perspective that they're principally healthy has other value that's not really been something that healthcare has really thought about, because I'm not sure. Now to Ellen's. Ellen, do you want to bring up your...
I do, but I want to go back to, yes, but I guess I want to go back to the Aura example first, because I think anybody who is part at all of Substack or kind of knows my spiel. Like, I'm all about N of 1 testing guinea pig myself, right? I started on a using food for instead of hormone replacement therapy journey last week with Robert Ferguson. So I'm like, I'm all in to try and be the guinea pig to learn from. And so, you know, I think what's really interesting, I want to do two things here. One, I want to talk about Aura for a minute, because I've gone deep in their ecosystem, and I think they bring up a really good use case that everybody in healthcare needs to pay big time attention to. And I'll kind of show why, which goes back to your point. I also want to then challenge you on those that are using Claude for Health right now and Chat for Health. To me, Chat for Health is like not there at all, because they've blocked, like we've all gotten on the wait list, right? The true sort of competition to what Anthropic has put out there through Claude isn't there. So I don't feel like Chat is really set up to test the way that Claude is set up right now. So that's why I've been leaning much more heavily into Claude. I want to press on that because of what I produced, and I'm very quickly going to run through what I produced. And the difference goes back to your point, which is when you went into Claude and said, tell me what I should know, it produced something, right? And it was the same as what your healthcare provider told you. I took a different approach with Claude, and I said, I really like Peter Attia, and I like his framework around health span. That to me is how I want to live my life. Which gets back to Carter's point of, if you're going to follow Peter Attia's framework as a doctor, like if you want Peter Attia to be your doctor, you got to pay attention to what you're doing in your 30s and your 40s, because he's going to make it really clear for you. He's going to connect the dots that, hey, I drank too much and I didn't exercise, and I got metabolically, I fell off the wagon in my 30s, and now I'm in my 50s, and oh crap, Houston, we have a problem, right? And then you got to play massive catch up in your 50s, which is not the easiest time to do it, right? Because by the time you get to your 60s, you're going to hit a cliff. It's inevitable. Evolutionarily, it's inevitable. What I got by doing that, and then by saying from a neurological perspective, because I know genetically that is a problem in my family, and I want to try and push back against that. Now, thank God I don't have those genetic markers that really predispose me to Alzheimer's, but I have a mom who's dying prematurely from dementia. And when you look at the brain data that'll show, it's definitely Ellen, you got to pay the hell attention here, right? Same thing. I didn't just say, what should I do about my brain? I prompted it and said, I know the Shares are amazing, and they're some of the leading experts on Alzheimer's. I know Dale Bredesen is also a leader with Recode. I know that Walter Longo has done a lot of research on this. I want you to take those 3 doctors and tell me what they would tell me to do. The power of what I got from that, it was like I got to call my own doctors that have written books and look at my healthcare data. And that to me is what a lot of people are missing, because in what Claude, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the piece that once people figure that out, it's like you get to pick the top doctors in the world and you get to ask them to be your doctor with your data. And that is mind blowing. So that's kind of the second part to this. So let's take a second on Aura, because I've gone deep in there, and I just pulled up my Aura dashboard and an example of behavior change. So the difference is, Aura has built an ecosystem where you can go into it and it's going to nudge you on a daily basis of how to, like exactly what we're talking about, which is like, how are you going to change my behavior? How are you going to keep me from drinking too much? Okay. My nemesis sleep. I binge work. You guys know I write. I love thinking. I think at 3:00 in the morning. It's like dopamine for me. And so my biggest struggle is my nervous system. I mean, I don't need caffeine. I was on the phone with somebody this morning and I was like, I just got to warn you, I'm in full mode right now. So like, right, I've got the zoomies. If you think about your dog when they get the zoomies, I'm like, I got the zoomies right now in my brain. So just, you're going to have to hold on for the ride. So on the aura side of things, I have found it, and let me just pull this, let me share, and I will not hit stop this time. The good news is that unlike last time, I did not screw up. I paused the live stream for a second, but we're back on. Everybody says we're good. So it was a minimal disruption. Okay, so here's my aura data. I am very proud. I want you to see my sleep score from last night. I am so proud of myself because
I'm so jealous.
But I want you to see where I was. I don't know exactly how to do this, but like, I want you to see where I was last week at this time. Are you going to tell me? Oh no, because that's when I stopped looking at my aura ring altogether.
Ooh.
This is my binge.
So tell me what did you change?
So last night, I didn't let myself look at the computer to work. I didn't put my phone down. I'm not going to lie. I didn't let myself get back in front of the computer to do any writing or any work after I cooked dinner for the family. This is where I'm going to sound like an entitled person. I happen to have a real issue with detoxing. And so I have been a member of a sauna club, like where I go to the sauna for 4 years now. Just so everybody knows, when I say what I did, I for 4 years have been paying and driving to a friggin' sauna. We bought one. We finally got it installed this weekend. Last night was the grand unveiling. My belief was that if I could get in that sauna without having to drive in the car, and I could go at 7:00, I've cooked dinner, I'm done, right? We've walked the dog, I can start to wind down. I wake up at 4:00 naturally if I get enough sleep. Like I just do. Actually, even if I don't, 4:00, 3:00, 4:00, my brain's like, hi, let's go. So I need to do this early. So I was like, okay. Last night, I did it, man. I friggin' nailed it. And this is what we're talking about. The aura has been telling me, and I want to be clear for everybody listening, I recognize that I'm talking about the icing and the cherry on top of health. We need to get back to the basics for people that can't afford an aura ring, that can't afford a sauna. Like, I get that. It's all about the food that we put in our bodies. But again, anybody that knows me knows I've optimized all that stuff. I'm eating Bob's Produce for dinner. We had white acorn stuffed with buckwheat and fresh and spinach that I had sauteed in with that, with tofu on top. And I'm not a vegetarian, by the way, but I try not to do meat every night. That's what we ate for dinner last night, right? So like the metabolic part, I kind of have figured out. So now I'm trying to dive deeper into the brain protection piece, and that's the nervous system. So heart rate variability, sleep, that's what I have to focus on right now. Well, guess what? The aura does that for me. It tells me you suck. You did not sleep enough, right? I did the same thing again here. Here was the other, I think I was a little bit better, but 77, right? I mean, this is not good. So last night, 7:00, I got in the sauna. I did 30 minutes in the sauna. I think maybe a little bit later than that. Took a shower, relaxed, read my book, went to sleep by 9:10. And you see my sleep score. But the best part about it, my resting heart rate, I've been dealing with it up a little bit above 50. It was back down to 45. And this was my favorite part. Let's see if it shows me. It does not on here. My heart rate variability was an all-time high for the year.
Is that good? I don't understand that one, actually.
You want your heart rate. It's basically a sign that your nervous system has calmed the heck down, right? Like you have gotten the parasympathetic, sympathetic thing, right? So it's the fight or flight, cortisol. I'm way oversimplifying it, okay? But here's the piece about aura. I'm getting really geeky into this, but I'm using it. I want to use this as a framework to say they have built the behavioral nudging tool. I am addicted, and this is what people will tell you about their aura. It's not the fact that aura has this fine-tuning part. It's the fact that aura has built an ecosystem that has users every morning checking in. So here's the part that gets most interesting about aura. They have this part, and I was hoping, this is why I was hoping, And this is where it gets real. And this is what I talked about last week, which is I think they're going to put rings on every senior's finger come July 1st. And they're going to pull as many seniors as they can into their health ecosystem, because here's what they've built. Okay. This is the Aura app. So when you hit the little, let me go back. If you hit the little lines in the corner on your Aura app, anybody that has it, this is what you get.
Line up now.
Okay, if you go to glucose, we're going to go to glucose for a second. You can put your CGM, you can order, see it says order sensor. You can get a Stelo delivered to your door, and you can get this tracking data. I did this, let's see if I can find it from last year. I did this exercise last summer with Aura because I was really curious to try the Stelo. Yep, here you go. This is what you get in your Aura app.
Wow.
Yeah. In your Aura app. They have built a health ecosystem, not just a snooty white lady ecosystem that's people would call a health, what is it, a biohack? What is it called? I don't know. A worried well, that if I hear that again. Now I'm going to go back out here, Pryce. You're like, wait, what? Now I want you to go to health panels. Okay. I'm back out here. I'm going to go to health panel. Okay. Look what I did. Can you see what I have on here? Your results.
Yeah.
I did the health panel. I went and I did that. Look what they gave me.
You have to go to Quest?
I went to Quest. It did it all within the app. It let me schedule my appointment. It let me pay for my labs. It gave me my confirmation email. Everything stayed within their ecosystem.
All very low friction.
This is what I think healthcare is missing. They've already done it. Look, then it gives me this. Take action. It tells me what to do based on my data, right? And then it ties it in. If you really read it, it actually, now I will tell you, I think Aura is extraordinarily weak in their nudging. I think they need to partner with somebody like Martin at Lirio and get a lot more scientific with their nudging. I think it feels totally like LLM right now. Sorry, because I'm a huge fan of Aura for what they've built, but I'm also a big critic of they need to worry less sometimes about the revenue that they're getting from growing and pay more attention to what they're building.
I don't think it's the revenue part. I think it's just the complexity of figuring out what users want. I mean, it may be. I don't want to go there. I mean, we are still in an extraordinarily complex realm of figuring out what people want. I mean, I run into, you people that are pre-diabetic that don't know, and that know they're pre-diabetic but don't know what A1C is.
Right, which goes back to your point, Pryce. You made a statement, which is everybody knows how to not get diabetes, and that's not true, right? Carter and I have learned that in this journey. I mean, I hear you, but
yes. The knowledge exists, and what I think is really interesting about you showing me all this, Helen, is that, and this is kind of the first thing. Gosh, I talked to Brendan about this months ago. I forget what I said. But basically I was saying, like, who cares about getting your health information on your phone? For the longest time, it's been like, well, everyone should have a personal health record on their phone. And I'm kind of like, no, leave it with my provider. Like, I want to know it's there. I want to know it's safe. I don't need to do anything with it right now. I'm healthy, blah, 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 blah. And so the actual adopters of this technology at first are going to be the very sick and the very healthy women with surfboards in the back of their screen, and they're eating tofu and buckwheat acorn squash, so the bell curve has still not adopted Aura, and they don't really want to hear that they shouldn't be eating spicy munchies, one of my favorite snacks, and et cetera, et cetera. So I agree that not everybody knows that, but it's sort of their choice to not know it. And more, I think Aura has to figure out, well, if we want to gain consumers, then we need to show people that our consumers get healthier. And it's not easy to tell customers to eat their broccoli. Like, that's what we used to say at Redox, is like, we wanted customers to do things the right way so that they had a successful, long engagement with their customers. it's not easy to get customers to eat their broccoli. So, but anyway, I want to see more about this report.
Well,
I'm just
so
saying,
I'm just,
I understand it's a fringe thing.
Right. So the aura thing, again, I just want to clarify for anybody watching. My whole point around aura isn't that what aura has today is what everybody's that's what's exciting. My point about aura is that they have built an alternate healthcare ecosystem that can disintermediate the majority of healthcare. They can own the patient the same way the health system does. And with access, they could truly have the patient attributed to them. And I totally agree. We have to think about primary care. We have to think about care coordination. Like, I get all of that. I've spent 34 years in healthcare helping design all of that. I get it. But they've built an alternate universe, an ecosystem that is a lot more fun to interact with than friggin' Epic. Okay. I'm just throwing that out there right now. And people like HealthX are allowing people to see that they can create their own wallet, to your point, their own plaid of their healthcare, their healthcare data. And it's not going to take Aura long. It's complicated, but people are going to figure out, hims and hers included, are going to start figuring out how to let people take that. I mean, Claude's already done it. Okay, so now let's move on. That's Aura. Alternate ecosystem of healthcare, a direct-to-consumer healthcare play that they control the patient. Sorry, just putting it out there. Now, let's move into Claude for healthcare and this HealthX piece. Let's just assume that HealthX had worked well for me, whatever, right? I know, again, I'm a beta user. Pain in the butt. I'm a beta user. I'm going to walk very quickly through these records because I only got through part of it when Carter and I did the part one, but I'm going to go quickly. And I'm happy to do a deep dive. If people put in comments like, hey, Ellen, yes, in the future, please go through this more. I'm totally fine. Whatever you guys want. The fact that anybody is here watching always amazes me. So I loaded 40 PDFs, 4 pings as a project into Claude. I gave it instructions that said, help me optimize my health using Peter Attia's health span framework. That is all I did. Once I got all my stuff, I went into Quest. I downloaded all my labs. I went into LabCorp. I downloaded all my labs. HealthX helped me figure out where all my other crap was, right? I also remembered, because HealthX only found a couple things, and I was like, okay, where's my OBGYN? I had a DEXA scan done. I haven't even put my Aura data in here. I haven't put anything in here. My health, there's so much more I can add to it. But all my main core stuff I put in, 10 years worth of data. After I did that, I said, and it took me 3 to 4 hours, just so everybody knows, this was not a 2-day project. I then said, tell me how I can optimize my health. How can I be the healthiest version of myself? I think this was the actual prompt, using Peter Attia's framework. All right. And this is what I got. I got this report. Anybody who knows Peter Attia knows that everything about health, all of his health is put into 4 buckets called the 4 horsemen. I didn't tell Claude any of this, Pryce. I didn't tell Claude use the 4 horsemen or I want to know it in these domains. I used one sentence. Claude went out and took 10 years worth of healthcare data, and it said, oh, let me take all of Peter Attia's thinking, and I'm going to give you a report as if you walked into Peter Attia's office. And it blew me the hell away. So first of all, it gave me on the 4 horsemen, it gave me a rating. I didn't even ask it to do that. It figured all of this out. Okay. That to me, this is what I'm talking about. The fact that people have the ability to do this, we need to pay attention as an industry. Did anyone watch the hearings last week with the CEOs? It was an embarrassment. It was an absolute embarrassment for health insurance, in my opinion, of the showing that was made in the testimony last week. And yet this is what's on offer. I mean, I have the max plan. If I had had the pro plan, I could have done the same darn thing. I've spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars seeing all sorts of doctors to try and help me figure some immune stuff out. Nobody has given me this. Nobody. I'm talking people that are concierge, yada, yada, yada. Nobody gives me an executive summary. It goes through again, this is what Peter Attia would look like. It tells me, lady, you got a problem with your thyroid and you better figure it out, right? And it shouts at me and it tells me why. It tells me, oh, by the way, those brain things, those brain tests that you uploaded in here, guess what? That thyroid is probably a big piece of why that's happening. So before you go a hyperbaric chamber, maybe get your thyroid sorted out. Okay. Then it goes all the way through. It goes into detail into each of the 4 horsemen, the cardiovascular, the metabolic. It goes into the neurodegenerative. This is what scared the crap out of me. Monitor. I don't want to see monitor. I want to see the green check, right? I want to see the gold star. Then it gives me cancer, low risk. All right. Goes through, tells me a whole thing, whole protocol on that. It goes through my DEXA. It goes through my VO2. I mean, this all came out of that one line prompt. Okay. Now that's exhibit 1. Now let me go to exhibit 2. I then got freaked out because I said, oh my gosh, right? I need to monitor my brain. So what am I going to do? So then I said, I want you to dive deep, right? I said, I want you to now dive deep into the brain stuff that you did before, right? And I want you to dive deeper into that and explain that further to me. Now, thanks to Prenuvo, I had done the enhanced scan. We know Dan Duran, their CMO, really well. I had done the enhanced scan, so has Carter. And so I had that additional data along with some EEG data from some health stuff, scary stuff that had happened to me in 2018. So I was able, I'm lucky. I have a lot of data on myself. So I'm a good N of 1 to test this stuff out. Next morning, I throw it in and I say, okay, please, what I just told you, right? Again, one line, Pryce, that's it. And this is what it gave me. It took these 4 reports and then it gave me an executive summary. Have you ever had a neurologist tell you this level of detail? Right? Okay.
Well, and I've never had a neurologist. So my first question is, when will it be easy and affordable
it's easy
for
now.
everyone?
You can go write a check to Prenuvo and get the data you need to get this data without having a neurologist. No referral, right? So let's play this out. You are an ACA person. You just lost your enhanced subsidies. You just walked away from your health insurance because you're done. You can't spend $4,000 a month for your family's policy anymore. So now you're going to say, what am I going to do? I have type 2 diabetes. My mom's got dementia. I'm scared and I can't afford, I'm not going to pay that stupid primary care anymore. He's not doing anything for me. He's not explaining anything to me. I can't pay for this anymore. What do I do? Kim Kardashian got her Prenuvo report. She seemed to learn a lot about that, right? So now, you know what I'm saying? So we kind of act like this is some long, right? My husband sent me the thing this morning. 800,000 people dropped their insurance. 800,000 in the enrollment in ACA is 800,000 people less. I mean, that's just the start of this. So this is real. This is happening. I don't want to sound like Penny, little penny or whatever, the sky is falling. Okay, here you go. Now it's actually breaking down for me. This is the area, Ellen, that you need to focus on. It then goes in and gives me, look at this explanation. This is for everybody to see the level of detail. Every report, it gave me additional detail. It then dove into my cognitive performance, verbal memory, reaction time, low average. Then it tells me why. It actually goes through thyroid dysfunction. That's a problem. That's tied directly to reaction time potentially, right? It goes through this whole thing, goes through protective factors. Then it actually ends, it gives me even more detail on the thyroid brain connection. I don't ask it for it, it gives it to me. So the last thing, and then I will stop my diatribe, is this. And I have to delay for a second because I don't want to stop the stream. So here's the last thing I did. So then, because I'm me, I didn't end there. I needed to know how to fix it because I kind of scared myself, right? So then I said, okay, now I want you to take that scary report. I didn't use the word scary report, but I said, I want you to take that report and I want you to tell me, this was my 3rd prompt and it was my 3rd report. And I said, I want you to tell me how I can fix it using Dale Bredesen, the Share's Eyes, and Valter Longo as my sort of source. I want you to incorporate those sources in. I didn't say base it solely on that. I just said I want you to incorporate those sources into that data and tell me how to heal my brain, how to make my brain better, how to optimize, what can I do, right? And this is what it did. It went through and said, when you take those doctors, these are the 6 areas that they would look at to focus on, right? To actually go. And then said, all 3 experts would agree your severely untreated thyroid is a problem. Okay. But then it gets better. It then goes in and says, now let's take all your data and let's tell you what Dale Bredesen would say according to his RECODE protocol. I'm reading his book right now anyways. it goes through and actually gives me priorities based on his pre-code protocol. If you've read his book, you still have to figure this stuff out. It does it for you. You don't even have to read the book. It then goes in and says, okay, for the share's eyes, they use the neuro plan. That's their approach, right? Well, here's how they would break it down for you. Here's what they would tell you that you should do. Goes through and tells me, hey, exercise is actually critical for that hippocampus problem that you have, right? The fact that you're not quite there yet. Then it goes down all the way through. Then we do the same thing with Walter Longo. Talks about hippocampal neurogenesis. I didn't even know that was a thing, right? Actually talks about it, and it talks about a way to fix it. Here's the other thing that was amazing. I already know fast mimicking is tricky when you have a thyroid problem. It caught that. It caught that I need to get my thyroid in check before I do fast mimicking because it can cause a problem. Then it finishes with an integrated friggin' protocol to tell me what each of the doctors would do based on what I fed into it.
And this was a one-shot query, right?
Correct. I did 3 prompts. That's it. That's what I got.
That's insane.
And you fed it the doc, you fed it the PDFs.
40 PDFs. Correct.
Yeah. And you put it into, you took 40 PDFs.
I created a project.
Loaded it into a Claude project. And then you added instructions on the project, or you?
The instructions were just the one line I told you, which was I want you to take this data and help me with using Peter Attia's HealthSpan framework. Then I wrote 3 separate prompts, and I literally. What's that?
They bill of material on that. How many? All those tests that or those 40 is $15,000 worth of tests, or is it more?
At least.
So
actually, to be honest with you, Carter, I'm not sure that I would say that. I mean, some of the deep dive labs that are in there, but the ones that this was based on, I mean, if you didn't have to go through the rigmarole that I went through,
it almost doesn't matter. The answer to the question almost doesn't matter. I mean, it's basically you're getting, because those costs will all go down.
Exactly.
So the speed at which consumers, Pryce, one way I've just sort of described this is there's what you should do and then what you will do. And the union of those two things is your care plan. And getting you to that care plan, whether you're trying to avoid diabetes, manage it, or deal with an acute disease, whatever it is, getting you to that care plan is something that doctors are trained to try to help convince you of. But there's not really much to help us as humans to train us to be able to understand what the doctor's telling us. So in between, there's the friction of getting to the right care plan. The answer is 80% of people don't get standard care. So that's more about chronic disease, but they're not getting the standard care. So we have a huge noise factor in here in terms of people going down the wrong pathway. And so when people talk about misinformation, even if you get the right information, you're not getting the right answer. So productizing what Ellen went through is a really interesting opportunity. And it's unclear whether the productization of that is hospital systems should deliver this, Aura should deliver this, Albertsons should deliver this, or is there some new actor out there that's there's the Uber of health or the Uber of longevity that's going to step in. So maybe it's Brian Johnson is going to reduce it down to an app. I do think that one of the things we're trying to do in our system architecture is say, if you're Robinson Crusoe on an island and you got to figure out how to do this, how would you do it? That's sort of the extreme test case. And when we talk about System C, to some degree, it's like, well, Alan's trying to figure this out. How do we get other people to figure it out? And one of the reasons I put that app together, the health app that I'm trying to, is to not, I don't think anybody's going to make any money in the health app business because it's all got commoditized. the AI guys will probably make money in it because it'll be a reason for you to hang out with the AI. Just like you do all your searches at Google, you'll do all this stuff. So, but I think understanding how humans will change and how the other systems will align, and so to some degree, what we're trying to do with this app is say, from a first principle standpoint, if I'm a human and I'm trying to figure out how to do this, and I want to reduce the friction to make it so that I adopt more of what I should be doing to avoid, what does that look like? And from a system design standpoint, this is why we're doing this unconference up in where are we doing
Denver.
it?
We're doing it in Denver, the 11th through the 13th of February. Anybody that wants to join.
Yeah, is to get people in the room that are sort of sitting there. It's like, I sort of see the picture. I don't see the whole picture. This is what I get. And I'm trying to figure it out because I'm really an expert in this area, in area A. And the world's moving a lot faster. And I want to hang out with other people that can maybe help me figure out how to close the gap. Because it strikes me there's a bunch of stuff you are experiencing data from the incumbents. I'm really intrigued if we can get you exposed more to how these things, like, what's your reaction seeing what Ellen just showed you?
I mean, by and large, I still roll my eyes at AI. Like, on LinkedIn, you see just terrible posts all the time that are obviously generative, like LLMs, and I like using it for research. I like using Claude and Gemini and Chat for research, but I would never use it for writing. And by and large, I think like, oh, okay, it is the next generation of search engine, right? It's just an amazing Google. Seeing this is like one of the first applications where I'm like, okay, it's not an app that, you made for fun that like my brother one time like put a RFID chip on the bottom of his water bottle and he made an app that like told him how much water he was drinking. I was kind of like, okay, what's the utility? Ellen somehow managed to create a panel of world-renowned clinicians to tell her how to improve her health. And my first reaction is, holy crap, that's incredible. My second reaction is sort of like, I'm comparing it to my experience, and I am thinking, okay, I gave it like 2 clinical visits with 2, CBCs and 2 LFT, like liver function tests. And it was like, meh. So I'm more so thinking, okay, if it can do this, how do we actually get discrete information to tools like this so that it can tell us things that are deeper than we understand? And I was at the very beginning of this call, Ellen and I were talking about how I'm an avid gardener right now. I'm not very good at gardening, but I love to garden. And I'm always like realizing how similar humans are to plants. It's like your circulatory system is your root system. It gives every cell in your body water, nutrients, things that it needs to do the Krebs cycle and make energy. And if you keep feeding the root system crappy soil, you might not see it in the plant right away, but the plant is going to be less prepared for the cold, that we had this weekend in Texas. Or the plant is going to create less foliage, which means it gets less photosynthesis next year or whatever it is. And I guess what I'm seeing right now is Ellen has managed to see the root system that is usually invisible.
Exactly.
And sort of pick it apart with not just her front yard gardening skills, but the skills of these thought leading clinicians.
I love that analogy.
Super impressive. And so now now I'm starting to think, okay, I really don't care about my records at my providers because it's relatively run-of-the-mill things that they're doing for me as a 32-year-old. Maybe I do actually need to go a little bit deeper and ask myself harder questions like, what could this mean in 10 years? What does my brain look like right now? I just told you my grandfather has dementia.
Well, maybe your grandfather's data.
Yeah.
Well, so you bring up a really good point. So the same way, I'm totally with you. I had the exact same feeling on AI 2 weeks ago before I did this. Exact. I was like, chat GPT for health, whatever. But when Claude, I don't know what it was. I think because I like Claude. And I was like, oh, everybody's at JP Morgan, and I made the good decision of staying home this year. So what the heck? I'm going to just throw it out there and see. I'm a curious sort. And I absolutely blew my mind and had the same epiphany you do. I was like, oh, I got to pay attention to this. This is not what I thought, right? But to your point,
Yeah.
I had the same. So I've been really struggling with function health and super whatever, Max's thing. And
Panel.
I
Super
love
panel.
Inside Tracker. I love Gil, but all these things. And I'm like, oh, it's just a new cottage industry of System B. I call it System B Plus. It's just the direct to consumer version, scaring people, giving them all this data, and then they end up dumped back into like Adam Carew's virtual, practice. Cause it's like, oh, great. I just learned all this stuff about myself. I don't know what to do with it. My tune changed on all of this testing with this. Cause I'm like, oh, you can go get all that testing. You can dump it in here and you can actually get some really interesting information.
Yeah. And I'm going to take this these words straight out of the mouth of my boss, Brendan, but
Which,
this is the
I love
worst
Brendan.
this is the worst it's going to be.
Exactly.
Like that actually makes me think like, okay, if this is the worst state of data accessibility in the next 10 years, and it's the worst LLM, and it's it's
everything
the least
about it.
techie user, no offense, Ellen, but it's like you're sort of painting the picture that you're like, I was in the sauna and then I didn't go to JPM and then I decided to see what would happen. And
totally. And my prompt
so
for
imagine
lame.
5 years from now. Yeah. And that's maybe why when I pinged you all in one of your live streams and said something about Gen Z, what I was thinking is when OpenAI and Anthropic first announced these things, there was all this like, they're going to steal your data. And I'm kind of like, they already do. So
exactly.
Just get over it.
That's what I tell people.
And they are going to kill people with their recommendations. And I'm kind of like, well, I would like people to be smart enough to consume what they read from the internet and then confer with trusted advisors like a physician or a wife or a friend. So don't just like, overdose on ibuprofen because ChatGPT told you to do so. But Gen Z, which is not me, by the way, I'm a millennial, Gen Z is almost like LLM first in terms of their awareness of how to understand the world around them. And I'm like, oh, this, and I don't really think a lot of them probably care too much about their health right now. Obviously, like, I guess my point is they're young enough to like, still be in college and not thinking about why their knees hurt.
Yes.
But eventually they'll be, like I said, 10 years from now, imagine how much better data accessibility will be and the LLM will be, and their prompting skills will be, no offense, probably better than Ellen's, which apparently produces
I hope so.
an amazing report. So it is like, it definitely begs the question of like, where will the disruption be? It makes me think people will be healthier, but I'm very pessimistic about capitalism, and I'm always like, who's going to try to make money off of this, and how is System B going to try to prevent this from happening? My mom just texted me last night and was like, did you know CVS owns Aetna and Caremark? Like, this seems like a monopoly. And I was like, you don't even want to get me started on this, So I'm a little pessimistic. I'm a little scared of like what the economy will do.
Right?
Yeah. But it's incredible. And now I'm like, maybe I do need a glucose monitor and an MRI.
Well, and here's the crazy thing. You can actually do all of that through the Aura ecosystem if you want.
Right.
And then you can get all that data put into action with nudging. And again, to your point, it's the worst it's ever going to be, right?
I do like that framing. It's swirling. I think we're, and I think the change is going to happen faster, meaning that the weird thing in the dynamic is Gen Z is probably the most capable of absorbing this, and in a sense, they have the least need to absorb it right now. And so
Youth
that's
is always wasted on the young, right?
Yeah, it could
That's
be
just
difficult.
Not on me. I'm fighting the good fight, man.
Well, you're acting as the early adopter. So now the thing is we want to make you referenceable. So
right.
How do you drive innovation faster? You need a referenceable early adopter. Ellen is that. So then you got to be people get exposed to the early adopter. And so part of our job here is to speed up people's recognition of what the new architecture is going to look like. And I think the new architecture, we were on with a grocer, a pharmacy within a grocery yesterday. And they're like, we know that food serves better, but if you talk to the people that run pharmacies and grocery, they are trying to figure out how to better connect with those clients, but they still sort of have a pharmaceutical view on it. Like, we want those grocery clients to become our pharmacy clients, and we want to reimburse them. We can do that through pharma, but we can't do it through care delivery because we're not care delivery people. My attitude is, when I talk to those people as well, have we talked to the CPGs about how to reduce that talk to like the Nestle's of the world to figure out how to reduce the chance that somebody's going to get diabetes. And so the person who's the product manager at a grocery store is still focused over on the pharmacy, and they're not even talking to the CPGs. And there's nothing in that grocery. They're still driving off of what's going to be on the shelf and how do they rent out their shelf space, instead of thinking that they can reshape that food delivery system to go take market share from diabetes. So there's still a lot of mix here in terms of whether the system will even show up as Aura.
Well, right.
What this may show up is the Aura data exposes the market opportunity enough that grocery says, wait a second, I can rejigger the food so that you never even need to be measured on Aura. Because now what Aura has given us is there are 50 million people that care about this, and we thought there was 1 million people that care. If there are 50 million people that care about this, we should be changing our business model at XYZ Grocery so that the hospitals never even get these people as patients. And so I'm not sure we know which way it's going to land. One thing we often say is we don't want people to have to go in with an iPhone monitoring every single thing in the grocery store and checking it. We just want it so that when you go to the grocery store, it doesn't really matter what you do. It's a good decision. That it's hard to make a bad decision when you get to the grocery store, because the system is designed that way. So all the bread is good. All the brownies are good for you. All the vegetables have better nutrition. Everybody's above average.
Listen,
Leprechaun effect in the grocery store. Everybody's above average.
No, but listen, I get excited by all of this, and I guess that's why I'm willing to not sleep enough within reason, because I also have to take care of my brain. I don't want to die prematurely, and I certainly don't want to die in the way that dementia takes you down. I get so pumped up because exactly what Carter said. If my referential example, my early adopter referential example, and the voice that we have created as we can do this, we can take three massive industries and put them together and restructure this. And I am convinced now that we can, because we have pulled people that actually want to do it, who could, right? And they're now saying, yes, we want to sit down at the table and do this. If I can take a learning like the epiphany, I saw the light bulb go off. I know Brendan. You and Brendan are people that can actually influence this on the tech side of things. Kat and Lisa and all of our people, right? That we're all intertwined with CMS. And if Chris Klomp and Abe and Oz get a copy of these reports that I generated, if that makes a difference, right? And so to your point about like Carter saying it's all swirling, it is all swirling. And at this moment in time, we have a wormhole for the good guys to come together that want to make this about human outcomes and not about continuing to monetize disease. We have a flashlight to shine. And so this is why you put up with me after the Uber ride. Like, we got to make a run at this, right? And so I think the more smart people that see this, that can hear about that, we can pull into this, right? That's what this is all about. We don't need a bunch of new things. This whole thing about incentives are misaligned, we can realign the incentives. But again, you have to get all the constituents at the table to talk about realigning the incentives. It can't just be in a silo. So, I get excited. I hope that Keeler, I know you'll talk to our boy Brendan now. And I welcome a chance on or off the record. Anything that we can do, any prompt you guys want me to try, I'm in, right? Because this is what people, and there are those little, there is maybe like this many. I really need to get my nails done. I'm going to do this now. I'm doing it next week, but
we should do this at your next week. We got 3 minutes and we got another call.
We got to get on another call.
Next week, or when we're up in Denver, Ellen, you should do a session with everybody. Should bring their health data with them.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Take them through a prompt and let's do that and talk through it.
We should have everybody make sure they come with their health data loaded. Already downloaded, and then I can walk them through the prompt live while we're in there.
And if we can get Dan to come up, maybe we can get him to teach people how to vibe code it too.
Oh, that'd be super fun. You have to work on that. All right.
Dan out there.
Thank you originally you were only going to be able to join us for 30 minutes. I am so grateful that you managed to give us an hour and a half.
I'm glad.
Right? Was this helpful for you, or was this an hour and a half wasted of your life?
No, this was very helpful. I love what you all are doing, and I think I'm just getting to the point in my career where I'm realizing, like, oh, I do want to affect change. I don't just want to be a hamster on the wheel. I actually want to affect change, and I don't really know how. I don't really know what's right. And I think you all sort of give me a framework to think about changing incentives and combining industries, and if we have to use capitalism to do it, so be it. But like, I'm tired of payers being the purser and everything being preventative or acute instead of just actually taking care of your body. So this is super helpful. It frames my goals, and thanks for including me.
Let's see if you can make it up to Denver. If you can't, see if you can send some other people. It'll be an interesting event.
Sounds great.
All right, guys. Peace out.
See y'all.